I came to Nashville in 1985. I knocked into town, fell off the turnip truck with a whole bunch of other singer-songwriters, some of whom ended up becoming now the heads of labels. Garth Brooks was hanging out with me. Neither one of us could get arrested the first couple of years we were here. You know, some of those big stars now were delivering the mail. Trisha Yearwood was a receptionist at my publishing company. I ended up writing some hits for her. You know, it all unfolded and evolved. And what I would say to young people in Nashville right now is that you and your peers are the next wave. Just hang out with the people that are talented around you, of all ages, and be nice and be good, because some of them might end up being the heads of the record companies or, you know, in charge. And another thing I'd have to say about Nashville is that it is the vortex of songwriting. And that brings artists and producers and musicians, and it's just an incredible field of dreams for every kind of musical style. It's not limited to country music, as you can see with this project. I mean, I walked into the studio today, I've met about 12 people that are all dripping with talent, and they're all from different worlds of music. Well, my good friend Craig King called me up and told me about this project, and I immediately thought it was a great idea. Anytime I can go in the studio with Craig King, it's a great idea. But this had added a whole other realm of greatness. You know, he's such a positive force, and he's such a genius. It's an honor to work with him, and it's really an honor to be a part of something that feels so good. You know, it just feels like it's really gonna shift some gears. And I think, you know, music is the greatest way to do that. You don't have to preach. You don't have to stand there and be a mom or anything. You just, let the music do its own talking. I think it's so much less expensive to prevent illness than it is to deal with illness once it's been allowed to grow. And in my case, I was misdiagnosed for 2 years. I had a lump in my breast, and I had a doctor that kept telling me it wasn't anything to worry about. And now I know what I should have done is insisted on going to see a breast specialist, because they would have immediately seen, because they would have done the right test, you know, to really find out that it was malignant. And fortunately, I'm very well now, and it was stage 2, but it didn't spread, so I was able to go through chemo and radiation, and now I'm very well. But if I had done some more ounces of prevention, I wouldn't have had to go through that at all. And I look back on my life, you know, in my 20s, a little craziness here and there, and, you know, the ways that I depleted my own energy sources regularly. I wish I could have made some different choices back then. So it's really hard to tell people on the front end not to do that. But hopefully, you know, someone listening to me will maybe think twice, you know, before they get down that road too much. I mean, it's very, very obvious to anyone who looks at the numbers that, you know, we could save millions and millions of dollars by educating people on how to prevent illness and avoid all the pitfalls. And in terms of drug addiction, well, that's even more clear. You know, once you become addicted, especially to some of the things like methadone, I mean, it's so hard to undo. The hardest thing I ever did in my life was finally quit smoking. It took 3 years of trying and quitting and starting and quitting, and I'm so glad to have that monkey off my back. You know, I teach a lot of workshops on creativity. What is it? You know, how does it work? How do you get more of it? How do you unblock yourself? And I always say the same thing, you know, that it is divine intervention. It is, in my opinion, the purest form of spirit moving through us. It's the way that we heal. You know, when my husband died, I wrote my way out of it, you know. I was married for 16 years. How do you go on? I cried through my songs, and I healed through my songs. And the beauty of that is that they go out into the world and they help other people, which even, you know, that's wonderful. I didn't know that was going to happen. People email me and say, I heard this song and it helped me, and I go, that's wonderful. But I didn't do that thinking I'm going to go help people now. I was just a grieving woman who needed to find a way through. And that's the beauty of art and creativity. And, you know, that is to me the greatest gift we have of being alive. And it is our language that I think God gives us music is one of the languages that I speak the most in terms of that. It also comes through a paintbrush, it also comes through written word, it comes through an incredibly artistic, creative way that someone chooses to raise a child. Well, when my son, who's now 27 and a fine musician, when he was 12 going on 13, his dad died of cancer, and my husband Ernest, and during those years he was just getting ready to go into his teenage years, and I was very worried about him grieving on top of just being a teenager, which is not fun, as I remember myself. It's not a fun era sometimes. And I just started throwing musical instruments into his room as if I was feeding a hungry grief lion. You know, I'd come home and go, "You want some drums?" You know, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I really want to bang on something." You know, I threw in amps and electric guitars and basses and recording equipment. And I will say this, I think music saved his life, and it certainly has saved mine. So what I would say to young people today, whether it's music or drawing or whatever form of creativity, I think is the lifeblood of staying in a great place in your life. Find something you love to do that's creative and learn as much as you can about it. And you know, there's going to be temptation to follow the crowd and get involved in trying things. But if you're really, really passionate about something that you feel creatively connected to, it's just much more interesting. It really is. I mean, it's a whole lot more dependable, and it's amazing what you can do with your creative genius that's inside you. So don't mess that thing up, you know? Keep that clear. Keep the antenna clear.